My name is Paul Green. I am the debate coordinator, and the City Club, which will celebrate its 100th birthday in 2003, is proud to sponsor this very important public forum. Before we begin, I just want to make a very short statement. We invited all the candidates. One candidate chose not to attend. So let's get on with the debate. I want to introduce first the state senator from the Southland of the Chicago region, from Palos Park, Pat O'Malley. Patrick. Next, I'd like to introduce the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Illinois, Ms. Corrine Wood. Last but not least, before we start, this is the City Club, which is known for, shall we say, strong debate, but also we also agree very much in civility. So make your statements, no statements, only short questions, but let's treat the candidates with the kind of respect that they both deserve, because it ain't easy running for office. With no further ado from me, which probably thrills most of you, I present to you on the opening 3 minutes the key issues facing Illinois' next governor, Lieutenant Governor Wood.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I have to say that I also want to thank the City Club for hosting this, to say how glad I'm here to be once again talking about the issues. I welcome the opportunity to debate. I think it's important for the people of Illinois to know where the next governor stands on the issues. It's unfortunate that all of the gubernatorial candidates are not here today. You have to ask yourself, what do they have to hide? I stand before you today not as a career politician or someone that came from a political family or was even a political science major. I stand before you today as someone who believes in public service and in making a difference for the people of Illinois. And like many, it's been business as usual for too long. I bring a new style of leadership to Springfield. It's why my very first position paper that I issued was on restoring the public's trust. It's about ending business as usual. It's about making sure career politicians don't continue to dominate our government. It's about sweeping ethics and campaign finance reform. But while this is an important issue, I believe the most important issue for the next governor of Illinois is improving education. As the mother of 3 school-age children, and as the first in my family to graduate from college, a proud University of Illinois graduate, I have to say that education is the key to our success. And I want to make sure that every child in our state has the opportunity for a first-rate education. And that's why my second position paper I'm issuing is Educating Our Future. And it outlines in a comprehensive way in how we can assure that all of our children get this fair chance. And here are some of the highlights. As governor, I'll continue to fund education with 51% of all new dollars. I'll pledge to increase funding for school construction programs by $250 million a year. That's $1 billion for schools across Illinois. As the next governor, we'll bring education back to the basics with new programs, a comprehensive reading program for grades pre-K through 2 to make sure that every child can read at a 3rd grade level. And I'll also continue to support more programs for early childhood education and before and after school care, because learning doesn't end at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'll also address the issue of teacher shortages, retention, and training. By appointing a governor's task force on teaching, we'll address ways to solve this problem, because we need to be supporting our teachers. We know that education and job training are important to the future of our state, but they're also important for a stable economy, and good growth depends on them. So another important issue facing the next governor is our economy. One major key to a strong economy is a sound business environment, and that's why I support the expansion of O'Hare Airport. It's economic engine for the region, and by supporting Peatone and Meigs, it's a total picture to not just keep airplanes moving, but to keep our jobs growing. I also believe that our next governor is going to have to devise a budget to live within your means. And I will, as governor, as I've done as lieutenant governor, come under budget and watch your tax dollars. I proposed last fall an elimination of pork projects, $300 million. That is a pie cut up by 4 legislative leaders behind closed doors. It's time for a new style of leadership, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Mr. O'Malley.
Good afternoon. I am pleased to be here with the City Club as I have been before. I do want to say, however, and I mirror the comments of the Lieutenant Governor to the best of her ability to express them as well, how disappointed I am that the other candidate in this race who aspires to be governor of the state of Illinois does not have the courage to enter this room at this time on this day and take the kind of questions that the Lieutenant Governor and I have been willing to take in the past, have taken in the past, and will do so in the future. By the way, I'm not speaking for you, but I know from our past experience you will do that. Having said all that, anybody who would like to ask me a question for Mr. Ryan, because he's unable to be here today, I'll be more than pleased to answer the question for you. Now, let me say this. 3 minutes is not a lot of time to tell you what we're going to do about addressing every state issue that faces state government. So let me give you a broad overview of where Pat O'Malley comes from and what Pat O'Malley would do as governor of Illinois. Hopefully you'll get a glimpse of his type of leadership. I come from a family of 14 children. I am blessed to be the second member of that family. In that capacity, I have learned to work with a lot of different kinds of personalities. By the way, I've learned to get to the dinner table on time as well. I think it's essential to have a governor into the future in Illinois who understands and cares deeply about family. Now, we can all stand here and say that we do, and I don't question that any of the other candidates would be insincere in saying that. But I want you to know the heart of my campaign is the whole issue of family. Family and more family. Because if we make families in Illinois strong, we make Illinois strong. Now let me share with you Pat O'Malley's heart as deeply as I possibly can. I decided to run for governor of the state of Illinois because I became, like every other citizen in this state, I believe, aware that we have corruption in our state, in the highest office in our state, and that somebody needed to do something about it. I come from a heritage where I have been trained and encouraged by my father and my mother and by my grandparents to stand up and do everything I can to keep what they discovered here in America alive for the future. Why? Because they did it for me, and I should do it for my children, and my children should do it for my grandchildren, and on and on and on. You know, what we have here in America is very special. We should not take it for granted, and we oftentimes do. And if September 11th taught us anything, it is that we appreciate America and what it stands for more than we ever have in the past. So Pat O'Malley's leadership will be focused on addressing the issues that make families in Illinois strong. We will have good educational opportunities. We will have economic opportunity for everybody in the state of Illinois. And most and not the least important, I will be fighting for every citizen, no matter where they are in this great state.
Okay, since the media always has strong issues on this, is it all right if they sit down? Because they'll also be spending 20 minutes getting up and getting down and crossing each other. So why don't you just answer your questions sitting down? Line up behind that young fellow over there. Sergeant of Arms Mazer will be in charge, of course, making sure. Remember, if the question you ask is to Ms. Wood, then the next question is to Mr. O'Malley and vice versa. So state your name and ask your question.
Patrick Sylvester of Cosmopolitan Bank and Trust. Lieutenant Governor Wood, would you be interested in following suit following the Republican Governor McCallum of Wisconsin's lead in implementing a completely independent state estate tax in Illinois?
You know, I have said that as governor, I do not want to increase taxes, and in fact, I vowed not to increase taxes. In these tough economic times, the last thing we need to be doing is asking more taxes and creating different kinds of taxes. So if I understand your proposal that the Governor McCallum put forward, the answer would probably be no.
Mr. O'Malley, you have 60 seconds to respond.
Well, again, the Lieutenant Governor have found common ground, and that should not be a surprise to anybody who knows Pat O'Malley's record. I believe in fiscal restraint, I believe in limited government, and I believe and have a record of making sure that we return taxpayers' dollars to the people of Illinois. I'm the sponsor of the largest legislative initiative in the history of the state of Illinois. Some argue the only one to return approximately $270 million to Illinois taxpayers. We don't need more government in this state. We need less government. And the way we're going to accomplish it is by getting our spending under control, not by raising the tax burden on our citizens.
This question is for Mr. O'Malley, and I think I can guess what it's going to be. Go ahead. State your name, please.
Senator O'Malley, my name is Bert Doctor. I'm currently the director of the 3rd Airport Clearinghouse at Peatone. Lieutenant Governor mentioned in her remarks that she supported the O'Hare expansion together with Meigs and Peatone. I guess my question for you would be, now that Governor Ryan and Mayor Daley have reached an agreement, the deal, to not only do the O'Hare expansion but do the Meigs, and also Mayor Daley agreed to help provide the funding that is necessary for the $600 million that is needed to do the 3rd airport at Peatone in comparison to the $6 billion at O'Hare. How do you, as governor, intend to work with Mayor Daley to secure those funds that are needed to do that 3rd airport at Peatone?
Thank you for your question. As you know, because I come from the Southland area, my interest and involvement with and advocacy on behalf of the Peatone Airport is not new to the people in the region. With respect to the O'Hare Airport deal, let's understand something. Everybody who cares about economic opportunity in northeastern Illinois should be a champion for making sure that O'Hare remains strong. That doesn't mean you have to be someone who goes along with a proposal put forward by the governor and the mayor. This deal you're talking about, I don't have a clue whether it's legal, but I will tell you what, as governor of the state of Illinois, I am going to encourage the mayor to work with me on behalf of all the citizens of Illinois. I understand his priority will be to the citizens of Chicago, but we should fight with great vigor to make sure that our aviation needs as a region are addressed and not just at O'Hare. Let me close my remarks by saying this. Peatone first.
Ms. Wood.
Let me begin by saying this. O'Hare expansion first. O'Hare is the economic engine for our region. We saw after September 11th what a devastating impact it has when O'Hare is not strong and viable. I was the first Republican, and there have been very few to come out and support the expansion. There have not been very many that have stood against party leaders to make sure that we do the right thing for Illinois. And it's because by expanding O'Hare Airport, we're going to be increasing jobs and keeping our economy strong. But let me also say, Bert, that for 4 years now, I've supported the expansion at Peatone. All the studies I've seen say that we can expand O'Hare, and there's still a need for Peatone. I support the land banking and the beginning of the airport there, again, not just to improve air transportation, but to continue the economic development that we hope to see in the south suburban area. And just for good measure, and because I like to be consistent, I want to keep Meigs Airport open also, and I'll fight for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. State your name. A question for Lieutenant Governor Wood.
Yes, John Curry of the Chicago Republican Party Executive Board. Lieutenant Governor, approximately 2 months ago, you went around to Chicago Republican Party meetings stating that the Republican Party in the state is not sufficiently diverse enough. Could you please explain to me and my colleagues of some 25 years around this room who are African American, Hispanic women, why this party isn't diverse enough in your opinion? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've said that as a Republican, our party needs to be more inclusive. It needs to reach out to more women, more Hispanics, more African Americans. But it also needs to be tolerant and respectful of other people's opinions. As the state's first female lieutenant governor, it's taken an awful long time for not just women, but for minorities to come into this field of government. As a candidate for governor, I not only bring broad experience, but also the issues that will bring more people back to our party. My mainstream views, whether it's fiscally conservative or socially moderate, I think will open those doors that have been shut to too many people, and that's how we win in November.
Mr. O'Malley, 60 seconds to respond.
We are, as a party, challenged in ways we never have been before. And we are finding ourselves at a crossroads. The GOP must decide whether or not the Reagan revolution that was fueled by Reagan Democrats is going to continue. And I can tell you this much, as a party, we also need to go over the crossroads of saying we believe that Hispanic Americans, African Americans have a place. But let me say this, we're never going to accomplish that as the grand old party unless when we bring people into the party, we actually follow through. The things that matter to them should matter to us, and we need to make them important and fight for them. I have a record of doing that, and I'll continue to do that as governor of the state of Illinois.
Question for Mr. O'Malley.
Rick Harnish, Executive Director with the Midwest High-Speed Rail Coalition. Just on Friday, I met with the Chambers of Commerce of the Quad Cities. Like Rockford, LaSalle, Champaign, and many other cities in the state, the people of the Quad Cities want to be able to take the train not only to downtown Chicago, but also to O'Hare Airport. Can you tell me what you would do to expand and accelerate Illinois' rail development program?
Thank you for the question, and it's not intended to be a softball. You and I don't know each other, but let me say this, that I have been the leading proponent in the Illinois General Assembly for addressing the rail woes and difficulties that we have in our state. We have major problems in this state that need to be addressed in the area of freight, but you're addressing high-speed rail as well. We need to work closely with the federal government to make the federal government continue to look at Chicago as the center of transportation in this nation, and the state of Illinois as the center of transportation, to play a major role as we develop high-speed rail in our nation. And I look forward to the opportunity of challenging and working with our Illinois congressional delegation and other delegations in the Midwest who would be positively influenced to work with us to make it happen.
Ms. Wood, 60 seconds.
Thank you. I think we all agree that transportation and transportation infrastructure is important to our state, whether it's rebuilding our airports to continue economic growth, or whether it's through rail and roads, and especially high-speed rail. Chicago and Illinois, at the center of the country, has a great opportunity to become a preeminent location for rail transportation. And we have to act now, because the bills in Congress will give us an opportunity, perhaps for now, funding for this very worthy project. While I'm clearly on record as supporting the airport expansion at O'Hare and Peatone and Meigs, we also have to address the transportation needs of other areas of our state, whether it's airports or whether it's communities like Rockford or Peoria or Springfield. And by bringing high-speed rail, we'll bring not only better transportation, but better jobs. I wholeheartedly support it and look forward to working with you.
Next person, state your name, please.
Thank you. I'm Aurelia Paczynski, and my question is to the Lieutenant Governor. Campaigns are enormously expensive, and money is an enormous corrupting influence. You've said that you're for campaign finance reform. Exactly how would you do that?
Thank you. I think we all know that campaigns cost too much money, and that the money in campaigns has jeopardized our entire elective process. That's why I issued my position paper, Restoring the Public's Trust, because that's what counts first, getting them involved and regaining their trust. One of the ways in which to do that is to require greater disclosure, to limit the amount of dollars that can be contributed to campaigns, and also by limiting the dollars that legislative leaders can put into campaigns. You have to ask yourself, here in Illinois, when a legislative race that maybe pays $55,000 costs $1.4 million, what's wrong with that picture? What's wrong is there's too few people with too much money, and that destroys the very fabric of our democracy. So I believe, first and foremost, we need to get people involved, and we need to encourage more candidates to be able to run, because right now, unless you're backed by the party establishment, it's pretty difficult, as I know, to continue to run a campaign. Thank you.
Mr. O'Malley, you have 60 seconds.
this whole issue of campaign finance reform is at the forefront of political reform and needs to be there. Look at the corrupting influence of the licenses for bribe scandal. You know, I made a commitment when I came to Springfield, because I feel very strongly about not expanding gambling in the state, that I would not have anything to do with taking resources in any way, shape, or form from gambling interests. And I have lived up to that. I even went so far as to introduce a bill that would say that none of us could accept that money. Surprise, surprise, it never got out of the Rules Committee. But I've continued to show by example what I believe is essential, that we not accept those kinds of monies. I would invite the Lieutenant Governor to set the same example by returning every dollar that she has received from anybody that violates her own proposal for campaign finance reform, which, by the way, would result in a return of almost $1 million.
Interesting. Remember, this is the City Club, you know. Yes, state your name. This question is for
Don't any of you want your money back?
No. Just coming here is a gamble. And we're talking about the audience. Question for Mr. O'Malley.
Yes, my name is Anthony Cole. I'm Vice President at Haymarket Center, the largest substance abuse treatment center here in the city of Chicago. We service about 15,000 clients a year, Senator O'Malley. Yet this study says there's 333,000 hardcore drug addicts in Cook County, so we only serve a fraction of those people. But I'm thinking about families. I bet everybody here has a family member who has suffered or currently suffering under the bondage of alcoholism or drug addiction. So we know this is a problem that is impacting families. At Haymarket Center, we try to impact that by particularly reaching out to pregnant women. We've had over 600 babies born drug-free as a result of coming to Haymarket Center. We reach out to also to women with young children, so we're the largest provider of substance abuse services to women with children at Haymarket Center. Yet and still, when we look at the state budget, substance abuse services is only a fraction of the total funding in terms of the state of Illinois. The budget is only a
Anthony,
half.
get to the...
Okay, my question is this. If we're only substance abuse is only funded at half of a percent of the total budget, half of 1%, would you be interested as governor in reviewing the budgetary process and look at substance abuse as an area that ought to be increased, particularly because of the impacts Department of Children and Family Services, whose budget keeps growing, Department of Corrections, whose budget keeps growing? That's the question, which is...
Okay, Anthony, you got it. You got it.
Okay, thank you.
I think I have some time left.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sorry.
Let me say this. I have visited, it's a question to me, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. I have visited Haymarket. I know of the wonderful work that is done there. I know Monsignor McDermott. Have known him for a long time in my life, and I am very proud of the work that is done there and how it affects families in a positive way. Let me say this. In my opening remarks, I said, the biggest issue facing us in the future is families. You touched on that. We have to do things about making families stronger. Unfortunately, there are things that happen in the lives of family that sometimes they can't help themselves with. Now, a good friend of mine, didn't know him personally, but I think a lot of him, was Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln said, and I will paraphrase, the legitimate object and purpose of government is to do for a group of people that and only that which they are unable to do for themselves. The good work that's being done at Haymarket is fitting within that definition in Pat O'Malley's opinion, and I'll fight to make sure that the resources are there adequate to help people do things they're otherwise unable to do for themselves, thereby helping families in this state be stronger.
Ms. Wood, you have 60 seconds to respond.
Thank you. I, too, have visited Haymarket. Want to applaud you for your efforts. We know that substance abuse and alcoholism is a very serious problem. We see our juvenile centers and our prisons crowded and overcrowded with substance abusers. We need to be addressing the issue of where it starts. And while I support putting more drug prevention and drug education services in our prisons so that when people are released that they have a chance of recovery and success, we also need to get at the root. And that's at the beginning. It's looking at families, it's looking at support, it's looking at education, awareness, and prevention. And at a time when our state budget is stretched to its limit, we need to make sure those dollars are spent in the very first place. And that is prevention. I've long been a proponent, and I'm a record in supporting that, and in fact recently sent a letter to Governor Ryan saying that I did not support the cuts that were proposed for health and human services. This is not the time to be cutting those services. This is our time to be providing support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Question for Ms. Wood.
Hi, Manny Sanchez, a humble Hispanic businessman. I have a question of the Lieutenant Governor.
Would you leave your card with the Lieutenant Governor and I
Manny.
both? So that
I'll be
we
happy to. Lieutenant Governor, on the heels of the anniversary of Roe versus Wade, and I feel very discomforted initially, but I thought, you know what, it's not been broached yet. On the anniversary, on the heels of it, would you please tell me why, in your opinion, since it does appear to be a distinctive opinion as compared to the candidate next year and the candidate who's not here, would you please define for us why, in this gubernatorial contest, the support of the pro-choice position is of such significant import?
Thank you very much for your question. On this eve of Roe v. Wade, on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, I want to make clear my position is that I support a woman's right to choose. I will support and protect that right. This is a very big difference between me and my opponents. Both of my opponents oppose abortion, even in the case of rape and incest, and that position is extreme. One of my opponents has already launched misleading TV attack ads to try and hide his position. Maybe that's why he's not here today. I don't believe that we can hide these positions from the voters. It's just simply too important. I'm a mother of 3 children, but I know that a woman's life and health should not be jeopardized because of a politician's view. I will continue to work to make sure that a woman's right to choose is protected, and that we don't let politicians who have views like abortion causes breast cancer to make decisions that impact not only our reproductive choice, but our health and our lives. Thank you, Manny.
Mr. O'Malley, if you choose, you have 60 seconds.
I will be happy to take it. I'd like to take Jim Ryan's time to respond as well, too.
Please, man.
Let me say this to you. We are a great nation. You're going to hear words like this from Pat O'Malley all the time, but you've got to go back to where we come from. We just didn't come along. We're not an accident. You know, this is not just the eve of some significant event that happened in 1974. We just celebrated the birthday of Martin Luther King. We're about to celebrate the birthdays of both Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. I stand in very good extreme company with people who stood for human dignity. Our nation was founded on human dignity, and every time we strip it away in any way, shape, or form, we cut out the foundation of our nation. I will not apologize for it. It is not an extreme point of view, and I might add, unlike Mr. Ryan, I will not be an apologist for it either. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question, please, please, please. We have a lot of people want to talk. Question from Mr. O'Malley.
I'm Barbara Stewart with Bank One, and compared to Manny's question, I have a softball. Given the economic challenges that are going to be facing our state in the coming years, what are your plans for growing our economy and balancing the state's budget?
Well, first of all, it's good to see you, Barbara. I'm the chairman of the Financial Institutions Committee, and I don't want anybody to think because of that and because of what Barbara does, she actually did throw a softball. But I want you to know that as far as balancing the state's budget goes, we have attempted in the current General Assembly, both in the veto session and the regular session, to give this governor some more flexibility in what he's able to do. We've actually passed legislation in the regular session. In the veto session, we fell short of the supermajority that would have been required to give him that kind of flexibility. That would have made it a lot easier and less difficult on Medicaid and other areas. But let's get to the broader question. I said in my opening remarks, the problem that is facing our state is not the lack of revenue. It's the way we've been spending it. So we have to get it under control. It's about setting priorities and being held accountable for what we do, both to the voters and holding people inside state government to be accountable to those people they report to. Now, having said that, you asked about economic development too, and that's a softball two-part question, and it's a big one. Let me say this. We have coal resources, for example, in the southern part of this state that need to be harvested. Coal can become the next great economic sector of the state of Illinois, providing affordable and reliable electricity for generations to come. By the way, and there's not a lot of time left, remember, coal could generate enough electricity for the nation's need for almost 200 more years. And the value of that coal in southern Illinois exceeds the value of the petroleum resources left in both Saudi Arabia and Kuwait combined. We can do great things into the future, and that's one example of how we can make our economy grow.
Ms. Wood, you have 60 seconds to respond.
Thank you. I would like to directly and specifically respond to your question. To improve our economy here in Illinois, we have to do more than just rebuild our coal industry. We have to make Illinois a better place to do business. That means creating a sound financial climate, that means supporting our infrastructure, and that means being proactive in getting businesses to locate here. Last fall, I unveiled my economic plan that detailed job creation teams to attract new businesses here, funding for programs like technology, biotechnology, and nanotechnology, so we can grow new businesses here in Illinois. I outlined my initiatives for early warning teams, so state resources can go in and look and see why a business is troubled before it fails. I've also outlined my position in my position paper how we're going to attract more federal dollars to Illinois. We're one of the lowest ranking states in terms of getting our dollars back from Washington. And as Lieutenant Governor, I got more than $100 million authorized from Washington to restore our rivers. So it can be done. And lastly, in balancing the budget, we have to end the way business has been done. The pork projects, the closed-door meetings, and bringing the budget process out into the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question for Ms. Wood.
Jeff Berkowitz, host of Public Affairs, airing every Monday night in the city of Chicago on Channel 21 at 8:30 p.m.
Good to see you, Jeff.
Where we play hardball, not softball. Let's play a little hardball. Lieutenant Governor Wood, you've talked about your plans for education, and you've talked about a charter school here and a tax credit here, but yet you said you're the candidate of choice. Why not give a little choice in education? Would you sign on to the program to say to the parents, at least in the city of Chicago and other inner city areas throughout the state of Illinois, where our State Board of Education has told us in the city of Chicago, 1 in every 2 schools is a failing school. So would you say, let's give those people a school voucher, let's give them the full pro rata share of what we're spending in the city of Chicago today, grade school, $7,000 per kid. Would you offer that choice? Would you offer that choice to the parents of the inner city?
I think we got the question. Ms. Wood, you've got 90 seconds to respond.
Thank you very much. As I said in my opening statement, education will be the #1 priority for me as governor. I'm proud of the record in the last 3 years of putting more dollars into education, but we need to do better. We still do have schools where our children are failing, where third graders don't read at a third grade level. And while my priority focus will be on public education and accountability, we do need to address those failing schools. And we have to remember, it's not our schools who are failing, it's our children. And more we hear in education debate about failing schools or teachers. What we need to be focusing on is our children. I've supported tax credits to give families an opportunity to have greater choice in education. I'm a strong proponent of charter schools, again, to increase opportunity. And once we establish accountability in our school system, which we must do, for those schools that are failing our children, the poor children who are in those schools shouldn't be subjected just to that opportunity. They should have a choice. I've said that I will support a choice alternative in schools where it's documented they have failed the children. Whether it's 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, we'll work out that detail. It's too important not to offer our children the absolute best we have to offer. Thank you.
Mr. O'Malley, you have 60 seconds to respond.
As the Vice Chairman of the Senate Education Committee, responsibility I've had now for 9 years in the Illinois Senate, since the day I entered and was sworn in, I have been a leader in providing for opportunities for education. I'm happy to see the esteemed Arthur Berman here, who was on the other side of the aisle for at least 8 of those years that I served, I believe, Arthur. And we had the opportunity to collaborate on many important things and also to disagree on many things. Let me tell you, whether it was the 1995 Chicago school reform legislation, charter schools, tuition tax credits, the only voucher initiative that was ever been voted on in my time. I have been a leader. I'm just not talking about making education a priority. It has been a priority. And those are the kind of things that Pat O'Malley has not only talked about, but Pat O'Malley has done to make a difference. Now, let me talk a little bit about money. When I came to Springfield, we were providing approximately $3.1 billion for education funding in this state, elementary and secondary. Today, it's more than double. 9 budget cycles later, more than double. The issue is making sure that our resources are expended wisely, and frankly, to make sure, as we did with Chicago school reform, that we restore local control all over the state, that we trust local boards of education to do the very thing they do and do so well when we're given the opportunity, and that is to fashion how education will be delivered in their community and to also make sure that they're good stewards of our resources.
Question for Mr. O'Malley.
Mr. O'Malley, my name is Virginia Mann Public Affairs and Corporate Communications Consulting. I am a Roman Catholic practicing. I am also a Republican, until recently a Chicago Republican. I'm a Republican because it is the party of Abraham Lincoln and the party that fought and got the right for women to vote. But I, like Lieutenant Governor Wood, feel very put out by my party because it is no longer representing mainstream America, it no longer represents its foundations of keeping minimal government interference in people's lives. And although you say that you want the party to be open to people, and you say that it isn't for me, and I would like to know what very specific steps you intend to take to make mainstream America, the average Roman Catholic who does not share your opinion on abortion, feel comfortable in the Republican Party.
Well, it's all very interesting that you would make the statements you made, because so many of them are absolutely untrue. And I'm sorry to say that to you, but when somebody stands up in a forum like this and makes statements that are ungrounded, you ought to be called on it. One, let me say this. You had your chance. It's my chance to respond.
Okay.
I am a Roman Catholic, and the Roman Catholics overwhelmingly support my position of preserving and protecting innocent human life. And you can shake your head all you want, but you are misleading in making your statement. Now, having said that, how do we open up this party and how do we make it more inclusive? We deal with the things that make a difference in the lives of people. We provide them opportunity. We make sure and ensure that they have freedom into the future for themselves and their children. And we make families stronger. It's just as simple as that.
Obviously,
No.
we're reading different polls.
You have a question. That's it. Ms. Wood, you have 60 seconds to respond.
Thank you, Mr. O'Malley, for making my point that for too long our Republican Party has been exclusive, it's been judgmental, and it has not welcomed all. My Republican Party is one that is based in less government, not more. My Republican Party, as it is for many, is a party that respects personal, individual liberties and freedoms. My Republican Party is one that does not impose politicians' views on people, and in this case, women, and the right to choose. I stand before you as a candidate for governor as someone who respects the fiscal conservative policies, but is also someone who believes in social tolerance and making sure we tolerate different viewpoints. And that's how we're going to continue to grow our Republican Party. Women, minorities, and tolerance. That's what it's about. Thank you.
Question for Ms. Wood.
Lieutenant Governor, Calvin McCullough, common taxpayer, hater of Illinois first, and generally feeling overtaxed.
Let us know
most
where
days.
you stand.
Yes. Let's put the niceties aside.
What?
The niceties aside.
I thought we were already there, but go ahead.
The child in the womb is something that will always be debated, but our Attorney General was petitioned by a nurse that worked at Christ Hospital to inquire about babies that are dying in a sold utility closet in the back room of the OB-GYN department. Lieutenant Governor, as our next governor, if you were so elected, what would you do to stop children that have been born into life from being allowed to die in such a brutal fashion?
First of all, I don't think anyone wants any child to die in such a brutal fashion. I don't think anyone in this room can stand here and say, I support abortion. But what we can do is support a woman's right to choose so that the health and lives of women are protected. What we can do is to make sure there's good family planning and education so that we can actually do something about unwanted pregnancies. That's an important part of this component also. So I have to say, I will repeat it, I respect a woman's right to choose. I will not jeopardize the health and lives of women of this state. But I will also work to make sure that we increase family planning, we support adoptions, so that these terrible situations won't have to occur.
Mr. O'Malley, you have 60 seconds to respond.
This is probably the most important issue facing the state of Illinois today. The fact that we have something going on in our midst, in our hospitals, some of our greatest institutions. We're not talking about abortion here. We're talking about children who are born. And somehow, some way, people who are law enforcement officials in this state cannot figure out that when you are born, you are a citizen. Now, I'm not just making this up. This is true. We went to the state's attorney of Cook County. We went to the attorney general of the state of Illinois. And they all came back and said, you have to offer some change in the law. That what's going on there isn't illegal. Forget about what the Constitution says. Let me just read the Constitution for you. You all know these words. All persons in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. No state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of those laws. I would suggest to you that the state's attorney of Cook County and the attorney general of the state of Illinois need to do a little refresher on what the Constitution provides.
Okay. Question for Mr. O'Malley.
My name is Mike Radzalowski. I'm a lawyer. I'm a member of the City Club, and I'll let you know that anything you say here is not for attribution anywhere else. It's a prefix to my question, which is, George Ryan was the governor of the state. He was elected by a wide popular majority. What would you say would be the positive achievements he'll be remembered for?
That may be the first time that question's been asked to you, Mr. O'Malley, hasn't it?
Try.
What will George Ryan be remembered for? In a positive way. Wow. All those broken promises, all those broken pledges, debt, and you want me to talk to you about the positive things he'll be remembered for. I am absolutely mystified. I'll tell you what, I have time. I'm trying desperately to find what his legacy will be. His legacy will be that he attempted to reform the Republican Party. He thinks that's positive. He thinks the message of moderation is what will bring us into the future. He has abandoned family values. That's the only legacy that he has, period. And he thinks it's positive.
Ms. Wood, you have 60 seconds or less to respond.
Thank you very much. I know that right now in a political campaign, it's very politically expedient to criticize someone who has fallen in the polls. And I, like many others, will require government officials to live up to the highest ethical standards. But I will say, death penalty moratorium was bold and courageous. We have 13 men that were almost put to death. Our system, our capital justice system, is broken. And I support the moratorium and making sure that the justice system we have here is fair to all people. I think that's a positive accomplishment. And I'm looking forward to hearing the Moratorium Commission's suggestions on how we can better run a capital justice system here in Illinois. I think that's a positive for the state. I think it's also positive that 51% of all of our new dollars were spent on education, and that education was a funding priority. And that's because I believe education should be a priority. I believe that the schools that were built, the computers that were put in, the long-term programs for reading and education that we were able to enact are positive. Can we do more? Absolutely. And that's why I want to be governor, to continue to make sure that education is a priority.
State your name, sir.
Edward Mazer, City Club member.
This is from, Lieutenant Governor Wood.
I know. Lieutenant Governor, if you were elected governor, what would be the first 3 specific things that you would do upon your inauguration?
The first 3 things I would do, I would say the first thing I would do is to hire the best and the brightest, because it's not just one person. And I would have a nationwide search to make sure that the people who are in my cabinet brought forward vision, experience, and independence. And unfortunately, I'm not sure if we can do that from within our state government right now. With good people surrounding you and bringing their experience, we can change the way business is done in Illinois. We can bring a new style of leadership. I will also say education, establishing a governor's task force on teaching standards and teaching accountability and recruitment would probably be my first priority. We're facing a severe teacher shortage. We have to find out how we can find more teachers, whether it's signing bonuses, whether it's scholarships, whether it's making sure that we've created a better environment in the classroom and supporting our teachers. By having mentor teacher programs and allowing more people who want to teach alternative teaching certification to be allowed. Education, #1 priority. Second priority, health care. I would work to expand health care so that more people in Illinois are covered. Too many uninsured lack access to affordable health care. I will continue to work to expand programs like Kid Care and also family care. So family members who don't have insurance, who don't have access to health care, can also be treated. Thank you.
Mr. O'Malley.
Well, that was a tough question, and I feel for you, Lieutenant Governor, because I know you ran out of time there. But let me just say specifically the top 3 things that I would focus on. The first would be budget reform to make sure that our resources are being expended for the reason or the explanation I gave earlier about Lincoln's definition of what government would be. Second, I would lift the moratorium on the death penalty. The moratorium on the death penalty is not something to be proud of. The moratorium on the death penalty is an illegal action. There is no power under the state statutes, under the state constitution, that allows the governor to ignore, through a process of executive nullification, which is what he's done. There's no legal ability to do that, any state law. And so he's basically usurped the General Assembly in the process. So it's very important that we restore the rule of law in the process. That doesn't mean that the things that we have done for the criminal justice system, to reform it, should be ignored or in any way lessened, or if there are other things that we need to do, they shouldn't be done to make sure that we can have the confidence in our criminal justice system that we need. But it certainly means, absolutely means, that this particular governor has violated the law and upset the rule of law. Now, the third thing that I would do is make sure that we have riverboat licenses in this state bid out. We are paid, the state is paid $85,000 a year for riverboat licenses. There are 9 of them. We estimate we could raise $16 billion for Illinois taxpayers if we bid them out. That $16 billion could pay off Illinois First, repeal the Illinois First taxes, all 140 plus of them, and would leave enough money over, ladies and gentlemen, enough money left over to do the airport in Peatone.
Okay, one more question from the moderator, because we always give everybody equal questions. I know a lot of you are counting with me. This is the same question I asked your colleagues who are running for the Democratic nomination. This goes to you, Mr. O'Malley, and then we'll conclude this part of the debate after Ms. Wood responds. If you're elected governor, the chances are very good that you will be facing those 4 legislative leaders in Springfield. How do you think you would match up if you went into those closed doors, assuming the doors still stay closed, and fighting for your goals, your objectives, your campaign platform, dealing with Messrs. Phillip, Jones, Madigan, and Daniels?
Well, I think to the extent that the doors remain closed, and it will be my goal to keep them open, I can assure you that I will match up very well. Having 9 years of experience in the Illinois Senate, I have a good relationship with the Senate President, and I know the other leaders. and I know what they stand for generally, and I know when their words can be kept, and I know how to negotiate with them because I've negotiated with all four of them. Having said that, it would be my goal, frankly, to open up the process. We need to restore the role of individual members of the General Assembly. We need each member of that General Assembly to be recognized for who they are in terms of who they represent. When you're a state senator, you represent a little more than 200,000 people. When you're a state representative, a little more than 100,000 people. You know, literally, to see this governor, you have to genuflect and beg for the opportunity to speak to him on behalf of the people of the state of Illinois that you represent. That's wrong, and it's going to change under a Pat O'Malley administration. The General Assembly is the people of the state of Illinois assembled before their government, and they should be respected as such.
Ms. Wood, 60 seconds to respond.
Thank you very much. I've already outlined in my ethics paper on how we need to make sure that too few people have too much power. I've seen it there as a legislator and as a lieutenant governor. And yes, we do have to open up the process to make sure the people have their voice heard. And you know how you do that? By having the positions that the people support you with, by building consensus, not by banging your fist on a table, but by finding people of divergent opinions and bringing them together on a common goal. As a legislator in the General Assembly, I passed more bills than any other freshman legislator, and I was a Republican in a Democrat House. So I've shown that I can work with both sides of the aisles, both Republican and Democrats. I've demonstrated not just as a legislator, but also as a lieutenant governor, time and time again, that we can get the job done. We were able to bring together the most diverse coalition on our Illinois Rivers program. People like the Nature Conservancy and the Illinois Farm Bureau, which rarely sit at the same table, do something that they said couldn't be done and get a program passed in the very first year in Washington, securing more than $100 million. We've been able to do that time and time again, whether it's even an issue like Abercrombie and Fitch and their marketing tactics to sell soft porn to our children. We brought together a coalition of conservatives and moderates and, yes, even liberals, because we were unified on that point. I've stood toe-to-toe with the legislative leaders and negotiated with them and worked with them. And I think it's fair to say that despite all of our Republican leaders' efforts to try and bully me out of this race, I'm still here, and I'll be winning on March 19th. Thank you.
For all you guys and gals, the closing statement for 2 minutes will be why I would be my party's best candidate for this office, Lieutenant Governor Wood.
Thank you very much. And again, I want to thank the City Club for sponsoring this debate and for all of you for being here. I really do appreciate the opportunity to answer your questions and to let the people know where I stand. Why I would be the best candidate for my party is because I can win. First and foremost, you want to elect a governor who has experience. As the lieutenant governor, as the second highest ranking official of the state, I'm the only candidate who has the broad-based experience of dealing with issues from education and transportation to health care and job development. I'm the only candidate who has experience not only being in the legislature, but dealing with the legislature and in the executive branch and serving in state agencies. And with our current economic situation in this state, we can't afford to have someone learn the job. As lieutenant governor, I've had to be prepared for 3 years to step into the governor's chair if the need arises. Secondly, leadership. We need someone who won't just be a follower, but who will take a stand, get the job done, and prove those results. As lieutenant governor, I've got a long record of accomplishments. Some have said we've revolutionized the office, and you can check out all of our accomplishments on our website, woodforgovernor.com. But more importantly, I believe I've earned the reputation as someone who's independent and honest and hardworking, and who's willing to take a stand, not just because it's popular, but because it's the right thing to do. And the last reason why I'm my party's best candidate for governor is because I'm electable. I represent the viewpoint of many people in my party and many people in Illinois that of being fiscally conservative and socially tolerant. I'm a mainstream Republican, and I have reached out to bring more people into the party. I also represent the clear choice in this primary. It's been decades since we've had a real choice in the Republican Party for governor. It took a lot of effort and a lot of resistance from party leaders to make sure that you all have a choice in this upcoming primary election. So I look forward to your support in this primary and again in November, because it is time for a new style of leadership. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Mr. O'Malley, 2 minutes.
Well, isn't it interesting? At the end of this important first time for us to have a meaningful discussion with the candidates of the Republican Party, and I say again for the Lieutenant Governor, where is the Attorney General who wants to be the governor of the state of Illinois? The question before us then, and as we close, is why we would be individually the best candidates in November to represent our party. Let me assure you, Lieutenant Governor, awful lot of offers were made to Pat O'Malley to get out of this race. And it was very easy for me to say no. It was not the least bit difficult. The Republican Party is a party that is grounded in principles. Those principles are limited government, personal responsibility, individual freedom, trusting free enterprise, and right down to family. All of those things lead to strong families. All of those things I not only talk about, I have a record as a state senator of putting into effect. That's what this campaign is about. Who is going to be the candidate who can lead us into the November election with a credible message, a message about putting principles into practice? The Attorney General can't do that. The Attorney General doesn't have a record of doing it. Let me tell you what the Attorney General's record is. Tobacco settlement. Illinois taxpayers are on the hook for $800 million potentially because he said he was too ill to go to a simple arbitration proceeding to represent our interests. And for doing that, we may, as taxpayers and the citizens of this state, have to pay $800 million we otherwise would not have to. But you know what? He wasn't ill. He was at a parade back here. And the arbitrator was very disappointed that he didn't show up. Jim Ryan is connected to George Ryan and George Ryan's scandals and corruption. Why? Because he was unwilling to do anything to call our governor on corruption. 39 convictions later, and he has yet to do anything, but all of a sudden, he has found an interest in something that has been well known in Springfield for a long time ago, having to do with the Secretary of State's office. The only person running for governor as a Republican this year with no association whatsoever with George Ryan is Pat O'Malley. And we are going to need a nominee who can stand up in front of the people of Illinois, all the people of Illinois, and say, I will stand on the principles of the Republican Party. I have a record of putting those principles into practice and making a difference in the lives of people and families back home. That's why Pat O'Malley is the winning candidate, not only on March 19th, but in November. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.